Okay, indoor shooting range, top 10 questions or concerns about getting a shooting range established. If you can relate to or identify with any of these top 10, I want you to stick around to the end. I've got a unique offering called the Online Range Conference that is going to help you move forward into this process and avoid these top 10 challenges, struggles that keep people from failing in the effort to establish a shooting range or that make the process more costly or add more months to the process. All things we want to avoid. Let's go with the top 10. Can you identify with any of these? I am researching, planning, considering the idea, and just exploring and investigating. So this is a big challenge because there's not a great single resource that's open and where you can access the closely guarded industry secrets, data. I'm guarding the information and knowledge that I have because that knowledge and expertise and guidance and coaching is effectively what I sell and what I offer. So there are some great resources out there, particularly through the National Shooting Sports Foundation. SHOT Show has breakout sessions, but it's a 45-minute listen and learn. It's not applicable to your specific set of circumstances. And it's generic, it's high level, it's not very detailed. So it's informative and helpful, but it doesn't help accelerate you into and through this, at least the initial phase and future phases of the project. And I find that they are heavily geared towards and oriented on the range equipment side of the equation, which is 5 to maybe 10% of where I spend my time. Range development services, been building gun ranges across the country for years. And yes, I only spend maybe less than 10% of my time on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis on shooting range equipment. I'm kind of pegged as, yeah, I'll come in and help you sort through all of your shooting range equipment needs. And I will do that, but it is not a focus. It is not the major issue that consumes our time. It's fun, it's easy, but check out the video that I have on wheels and tires as an analogy for range equipment to further open your eyes and make sure you have the right mindset about the range equipment and the role it plays in this process. So, number one, I'm just researching, considering the idea, and exploring building a shooting range. Number two is I just need a shooting range equipment quote for my budget. That's common. Again, the range equipment is a big component of the budget and must answer those questions. But the limiting factor in it is if you're just starting in this process, you haven't broken ground yet. Let's say, let me give you some context. I would say about half the ranges that I've been involved with building, we have not actually contracted for the shooting range equipment until after we broke ground. It's not always true, but it can be done. So until you're ready to sign a contract and then make a deposit on your range equipment, you're really in no position to go into some heavy negotiation. Just plan on that range equipment costing at least $80,000 per lane, both ballistic and HVAC. If you go with one of the more expensive options, it's probably in today's market going to be closer to $110,000 per lane. So there are some options, some flexibility. You might get a little cheaper, you might be a little bit more, but that's kind of the range of what you ought to just from a high level budget and project. But if you're spending time on range equipment, I suggest to you, you're just having fun and there's a lot more that you need to focus on, which I'll help you understand. Okay, number three, I need to evaluate and understand the opportunity to build a shooting range in my market specifically. And this is data driven metrics, formulas. I do a market test, a market saturation test to determine, okay, how much bandwidth within your population, within your geography is there for 8 lanes, 30 lanes? Oh, 30 lanes is too much. Well, how much should we reduce it to? Let's work through the metrics to determine what's most suitable for your market so that you don't overbuild. All right, number 4, question, concern, cause of delay or failure in establishing a shooting range is that I'm new to the firearms industry. I've never run a range before. I'm not an FFL. More than half of the ranges that I've built have been for owner operators who fit this description. They're not in the industry. They own guns. They're passionate about guns. They want to see more people trained, and they want a profitable business. So don't let this be a hurdle or impediment. If you are of an entrepreneurial spirit, you like people, you like the idea of dealing with people, customers, and building a team and supporting that team, then this is likely potentially a venture you ought to look into and consider. All right, number 5 is I want to conduct feasibility and due diligence. I'm going to never end my suggestion, recommendation, and guidance to nail down your business model first. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes, but at a high level, that's number 5. Number 6 is I just want to see the numbers. Okay, this relates directly to the business model, and that business model needs to include all of your construction costs, all of your startup costs, your projected revenue broken down by each stream of revenue: firearm sales, membership sales, all the accessories, all of the services. What is the average quantity sold on on a monthly basis? What is the margin? What's your cost of goods going to be when you're buying a gun from a distributor? What's the average margin, the markup that you'll enjoy? And then monthly for several years, what's that growth rate going to look like? And you project your revenue in that way, just the same way you do your operating expenses, your cost of money, so your debt and your equity. And then what is the cash on cash return for your group of investors going to look like? These are all critical components that make up what I refer to as the business model. This is a separate document from your narrative business plan. I think the business model is far more important than the business plan, because the business plan is what's kind of telling the story. Not to say it's not important, because it is, but just need to see the numbers is not a simple and easy process. There are many variables that go into a shooting range. And if you make one change, it can have a ripple effect. One good example of this is I'm building a range that has a retail component to it, and I want to increase that square footage by 1,000 square feet. So what are, in your mind, the line items in the budget that you just impacted? Well, 1,000 square feet is 1,000 square feet of building square footage. So roof, walls, floor, what else? What comes to mind is now additional capacity needed for your HVAC system to condition that space. You also need more retail displays. So the cabinetry and display systems that you're going to use, by 1,000 square feet, you just impacted your budget by probably tens of thousands of dollars. You're also going to have an impact on the budget when you increase your square footage, or decrease it for that matter, on the human cost. You have another 1,000 square feet. That means you have more products to sell. That means you've got to man that floor with sales staff. So you've impacted your operating expenses. Okay, so did you catch it? I also mentioned inventory. So now you got another 1,000 square feet. On a per square foot basis, are you going to have $100 per foot in inventory? Or are you going to have $225 a foot of inventory in your showroom? So you can just see off the top of my head, there's, I don't know, at least a half dozen needs that are going to be driven by a change in square footage on your retail showroom. Security cameras, you're going to need at least another one camera. Yeah, we'll stop there. There might be some other items, but you understand that making adjustments and the ability to make those changes on the front end, you need that flexibility within your business model documentation. But then once you move out of the business model phase and into actually implementation to get your range built, your ability to respond to changes, the need to change, or the desire to change, is significant. Otherwise, you've got to rejigger your whole process for your investors and your lender and the underwriter that the lender uses to confirm that they will loan you the funds to construct your range. These are all issues that I realize over the years within the range industry, range equipment, advice, consultative services are not disclosed or not talked about, and they should be. Okay. I don't even know what number we're on. Number 7 is if and how a shooting range will be profitable. Can they fail? Absolutely. Are they a risk? Sure. Are you properly planning? Do you have the right guidance? And have you had the insight provided to you to say, hey, here's how we've seen other range owner operators struggle, and here are the options for your needs and objectives, not just, well, what's the blanket solution that here's our plug and play online sales tool for selling guns in an online store. There is not a one size fits all. Some people believe that there is, but I can assure you that there's not. So the advice you get is important, and your mindset about how you approach this business is also important. And whether or not you're getting that advice is really going to be where there's value in the initial stage and throughout the build process. Number 8, what are the steps in the process, and how do I know that I have the right sequence of those steps to get my shooting range established? This is a great question for people to acknowledge that they have. Far too many step into the process kind of unknowingly pursuing real estate, or they go hire an architect and they don't have the proper sequence of the real tasks that need to be achieved. There is a very systematic and logical sequence of steps. So knowing the steps and knowing the sequence is really important. Number 9, I worry about finding a suitable property. Man, this is my space right here. I come from commercial real estate and city planning. My niche is building shooting ranges across the country, but suitable property can mean many things. The due diligence and feasibility is multifaceted. It's not just about price. It's not just about location, because you might have a site that checks both of those boxes nicely, but has some topo issues or doesn't have the adequate utilities that you need. You need water, sewer, electric. Well, wait, how much water, sewer, and electric do you need? Do you need natural gas? If those are not at your property, where are they? And a lot of times we run into a situation where utilities are quote unquote available. How does your real estate broker or the seller define available? It's a big issue and can bite you after you're well into the process and committed and have a lot of money sunk into this, that I want to help make sure is not wasted. Okay, number 10, don't understand how to secure a loan and equity, and how and when exactly I should be designing my range, and to what level of design should I move forward with. The sequence and timing of those issues is a bit of a mystery. I can't buy my property unless I have financing, and I need investors to be able to finance it, and I need a design to also be able to finance it. This step in the process of mapping out your business model first empowers you in those subsequent issues and tasks and relationships in ways that I won't go into in this video, but that is number 10. That's the top 10. There are a few more. I'm going to throw some bonus questions, concerns. Is I'm looking for the education that I need. Again, you're not going to get it just from going to some classes at SHOT Show or to the retail expo or searching online. My role in establishing ranges over the years suits me to impart to you the knowledge and information and insights and recommendations and coaching strategies more effectively. I fill the role of consultant and fee developer partner in this, but not in a way that allows you to just come in and buy an isolated item from a list of services. My approach, you might not like this, but my approach is it's a multi-million-dollar investment. For a lot of people, this is life-changing. And for you, having not gone through this process before to establish a shooting range, to determine or to know, to assume that you know when you need certain information. Well, you need the information because you don't have it. How do you know when you need it? It's a little bit of a convoluted idea, but in my mind, it's very clear. And that is my approach is comprehensive. When we're talking about the business model and the budget and whether or not to adjust the retail square footage by 1,000 feet, I'm thinking through, okay, there's another half dozen items in the budget that also need to be adjusted. And that's going to drive some decisions about site selection and how big the property and whether or not a certain property is suitable, because we just changed the parking requirement for your indoor range because you added 1,000 square feet of retail space. So it has an impact on your site plan. So if you have to park, if your site plan now is required to have 4 more parking spaces to accommodate that additional 1,000 square feet of retail, how many sites? 4 doesn't sound like a lot, but a lot of times you'd be surprised how we are down to the threshold of the required number of parking spaces that the city or county has to see on our site plan must be built, or else we don't get a building permit. So these implications are far reaching. Okay, another is, how do I secure zoning and investors and a loan? We touched on this earlier to some extent, but it's a key issue, key element. And my suggestion to you, my historical success has been based on the fact that we get the business model 90 to 95% complete before we're having meaningful conversations with investors, with a loan officer, about property. Put all of those issues on a hard pause is my strong recommendation, and work through your business model first. It sounds like, oh, that's self-serving. You're offering to sell a business model and the formation of this business model for my specific range conditions. And that's great for you, Stu, but I got this property I need to act on right now. And my suggestion to you is what I've repeatedly seen, and that is chasing real estate, chasing zoning on a particular property and not having the business model ironed out and all of the details. Hundreds of little decisions make up the business model. Not having those known and quantified and understanding the implications for the influences of what you will encounter along the way sets you up for disappointment, failure, spending a lot of money and time and having to backtrack, if not failing outright. It's really comes down to another video that I just posted recently of, why is there not a gun range in your market already? You're certainly not the first person to have the idea, right? I mean, there's people who are like you who love guns and love shooting and need more training and want more products and want a place to go and shoot and train and entertain. So why has a gun range not already been built? I suggest to you it's likely because they failed to raise the money. They failed to find a site. Well, why did they fail in that effort? Probably, statistically speaking, because they didn't know and understand their business model the way that they needed to be able to roll with the options and the challenges and the need for flexibility, because they didn't have the fundamental and foundational element of their business model sorted out. We'll move quickly here towards the end. I need the NADA. I need the data. I need the knowledge, the metrics, the guidance, the schedules, the checklists. I need the tasks of to-dos and the sequence of them. I got to have the budget. I need the operating expenses. I got to be able to go to my investors with the numbers. Kind of touched on this. All these issues you'll find interrelate and are impacted by the other. So it's not really a top 10 list. It's really the list. It's a comprehensive list. So what does all this point to? If you want to take your idea and dream of becoming a range owner operator, get past the idea stage, we'll have a hunch. Me and my buddies really think this is a good idea. Everybody I talk to, everybody I mention it to says, yes, we need this so badly. Well, how do you move into due diligence and work through market analysis and run your demographic report and tie that to your budget and your square footage, the online range conference is designed just for that scenario. I serve as a development partner, a strategist, a coach, a consultant focused on the niche of building shooting ranges around the country for folks. And this is the key to your success. This pathway of nailing down your business model before you get into the implementation phase of real estate and design and legal formation of your operating agreement. You can't go hire an attorney and have them provide you with a legitimate operating agreement if you don't have your business model sorted out. One of the first questions from an attorney should be, well, how much, what are you offering? You need to understand what those metrics and those inputs are and how much of the entity, the ownership of the business you're going to maintain and hold. You're going to get a salary, you're going to get a percentage of ownership, and then your investors are going to come in and have an expectation that they get a certain return and percentage of ownership potentially. Without your business model sorted out, your attorney is going to be wasting your money by providing you with documentation. So if understanding this process, getting through it in an efficient manner is of interest to you, you identify with any of these questions, concerns, and challenges that I face on a regular basis, the online range conference is likely a good fit for you. I've got a pre-registration screening form. It should take you maybe 5 minutes to complete. And after that, I look forward to connecting with you one-on-one. We're going to launch the first module, assuming we sell enough seats, because this is a significant effort to get this information out in this online format. But we're going to sell seats and launch in October, module 1 of 7. And if you want to learn more about what's in each of the 7 modules, let me know that, and I'll provide you a copy of the outline. I'm Stuart Mullen, Range Development Services. We have a limited number of seats because I'm not going to open it up to dozens and dozens of people to go through the online range conference all at one time. So it's limited number. You must pre-qualify effectively, but it's going to be, I think, the most effective way for you to get into this process on sure footing, have a solid foundation, increase your knowledge, increase your confidence, increase your likelihood of success in a dramatic way. There's not a more affordable option to go through what you're going to get and gain in the online range conference that I'm aware of.